Welcome to the Allura installation how-to series. Before I start any projects, I make sure I have the proper safety equipment or protection equipment, PPE. The first thing I start with, for me, is my safety glasses. Everything that you cut or nail is throwing debris, and very importantly, wear safety glasses. If I'm the cut guy on a fiber cement job, I'm making sure I have my minimum N95 mask. For the most part, if you cut outdoors and you have wind to your back, you can cut it within a safe permissible limit as far as the OSHA is concerned. I've got my mask, my hard hat, my earplugs. Now I'm wearing a bump hat. If you have people working above you, you're going to need to wear a hard hat. So to install fiber cement lap side, you don't need a lot of tools, but the ones I start with is a hammer, a tape, a speed square, a plastic one, and that allows me to actually notch out different widths that I need for when I'm scribing rips and when I'm notching. The first one I put in there is at 1.25 inches. The 1.25 inches is the overlap on all of our lap siding, so it's really important. Our boards are within 1/8 of an inch, but you don't really want to snap lines on it, so if you scribe with the speed square and this notches, it'll follow any kind of curvature and give you nice parallel rips and cuts. So carpenter pencils, make sure you have a lot of these. The fiber cement eats through them like butter. There's an old saying, sharp pencil, sharp carpenter. Doesn't matter how good a measurer you are. If you don't have a sharp pencil, it's all for naught. So make sure you have a sharp pencil. The knife is going to be important to sharpen your pencil and also cut the weatherproofing and other flashings. Pretty invaluable tool. I carry a mini torpedo level. This works for smaller pieces. It seems like the smaller piece of lap siding, the more out of level it goes. So this is going to help you keep those shorter pieces level. When it comes to most siding jobs, I don't use a level except for short pieces. I snap lines from corner to corner. People don't see level, they see unparalleled to windows and doors. So a straight line and nobody will give you any grief. I'm from Seattle, so I actually use an ink box. It works well in the rain. It's got a self-retractor, very handy tool, about 25 bucks. So when I'm installing lap siding, I use the chalk boxes to get a couple lines, but after that, once I've got a board installed and I have something to gauge upon, I just use a siding gauge. This is a tool made by Malco. It's adjustable to 4 different exposures, 4, 5, 6, and 7. It's as easy as flipping this around to get the 4 different exposures. I use this in a combination with the gecko gauge. The gecko gauge is one of my favorite tools. We've done some time motion studies. This was 30% faster than most of the other methods. It's a slip design. It goes underneath the piece already in there and then clamps on. And the beauty about this is that it clamps on the wall and allows you to adjust the boards, nail it, pull them off. One thing that won't help you with your fiber cement siding, but it is imperative to have when you're doing fiber cement, is a stapler if you're using paper, or for the most part, most house wraps. Make sure that you check with your house wrap manufacturer. Some people want to have a washer fastener, but for the most part, hand tacker is what most people use. I like to use a little pry bar. This helps me finagle and wedge things around. If I'm using a pre-painted siding, I'm going to have an edge coater. This is for any cut edge. If you cut fiber cement, you need to coat it or do a cut end treatment. 1 of 3 things: primer, paint, or caulking. If you cut a board and put it into your trim and caulk it, that's a cut end treatment. If you're in the field, we don't recommend caulking that joint. So if you do have to cut the primer off it, make sure you reprime it or repaint it and then use backflashing to meet the code required vertical joint treatment. When it comes to weatherproofing, if you trim it, it's a building code that you have flashing on it. So you're going to need a pair of tin snips to cut it to length. I live in Seattle, a little bit of rain there, so I use this tool to make a metal end dam. This is the Z flashing we'd recommend. It's a true Z. It's got a hard 90 edge on it with a 2-inch back, and that allows for paper to overlap it to get a proper shingling. For the most part, you're just going to cut it straight and put it on the trim, there's a better way to do it. What I'll do is I'll cut out a 1/4 inch. We do require, because code requires it, a 1/4 inch space between the siding and the flashing, and to not caulk it, and that's to allow water to escape the wall assembly. So in that application, I'm going to take a 1/4 inch off the face, and I'll bob this back, and then I'll take a metal end seamer. I've done this with crescent wrenches. You don't have to have a specific tool, but this allows you to pinch and bend the end of the piece of flashing. So now wind-driven rain is going to hit that seamed piece of metal and spit out versus trying to get into that transition. We do require caulking at any dissimilar materials. So your corner trims, your window trims, you need caulking on the side, but don't allow it on top, because that's a code requirement that you have to allow the water to escape the wall assembly. This isn't an Allura requirement, but it is a requirement in Canada, and this is how I did it as a professional in Seattle, where it rains just a little bit.